Hi, this is Professor Marie Leone, and today's discussion is Chapter 3 of the Elements of Moral Philosophy text, and we are talking about ethical subjectivism. We have so far talked only about cultural relativism, and now we are expanding our knowledge of the historical developments in ethics to include subjectivism. As you can see by the dates here, this is the 1700s, a philosopher named David Hume, who in a nutshell believed that all ethical claims are really just statements of feeling. In other words, our moral opinions are based only on feelings and nothing more. There's no such thing as a, quote, objective, unquote, right or wrong. There is no fact that something is good or bad. And instead, when we say that some action is evil, we're only saying by that statement that it makes us feel icky. We don't like it. So, for example, the example from our text, if Hitler decides to exterminate all people of Jewish ancestry, it's not that that's evil or bad, it's just that it makes me feel icky. I don't like it. So I don't like it, so therefore I say it's bad. But it isn't objectively bad or evil. There's no fact of it, like the tree is green. That's something I can go out and take a look at the tree and say, yep, it's green. You go look at the tree, and you just go look at the tree and say, yep, it's green. And it is now a fact that the tree is green. So what Hume is saying is that it doesn't work that way. What we say when we, or what we mean when we say Hitler is evil is that, or extermination of people of Jewish heritage is evil. What we are actually meaning is that I don't like it. Akin to saying, I don't like onions. It means nothing more than that. Nothing more than feeling. Okay, that said, our text goes into a lot of very detailed argument against why simple subjectivism is rationally inconsistent, and what the difference is between that and emotivism. A lot of it will be lost on us, I am sure. They're fine minutia points that I'm not too concerned about you following. So if you don't follow everything in the text, don't lose sleep over it. What you do need to follow, though, is first the understanding that is simple subjectivism. Moral claims are nothing more than feelings according to the subjectivist, and they're akin to saying, I don't like onions, and nothing more. Now, there's a lot of problems with that philosophy, ethical theory, because first and foremost, when we say genocide is bad or evil, we don't actually mean it to be like, well, you know, it's not for me. You go ahead and exterminate that race. But me, I'm going to stay home tonight. It really isn't the meaning that we have in our hearts and minds when we make that statement. So it doesn't really reflect the reality of our language. And in the, would it be the 20th century? Yes, it would. We get to a philosopher named Stevenson, and this in philosophy is called the linguistic turn, when philosophers start spending a lot of time really looking at how we use language and what we mean to do with different kinds of language. And that's actually very helpful at this moment, to look at what we mean to do with our language when we say something is evil or bad. In this moment, what happens is, and ethical theories, like anything else, develop over time. So we begin with ethical subjectivism in Hume, and while some people simply abandon that philosophy, as I mentioned, philosophy takes the linguistic turn, and simple subjectivism is replaced with a philosophy that is called emotivism. I will call it both simple subjectivism and emotivism. For our purposes, I'm not going to differentiate between the two. There are some questions, if you're doing the Learn Smart quizzes, there are some questions separating between the two, but I will not ask you to do that during our midterm or our final, or in our papers. So let's look at how emotivism clarifies, in my opinion, subjectivism. It does make it stronger, and I think it gives a better telling of this philosophy. So let's look at that. The thing that Stevenson notices is that we use language differently. When we describe something factually, the tree is green, it's a statement that can be true or false depending upon the evidence that we obtain through our senses. Someone goes out and measures. Someone looks at the tree. These statements here, these three statements here, are all either true or false. Gas prices are rising. True or false? Peyton Manning had surgery. This is a very compound statement. All of these parts need to be true for this statement to be true. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, either true or false. So each of these cases is a factual claim. But when we say things like, "Way to go, Peyton," or "close the door," we mean to do something different. These are performative statements. These are commands. And by noticing this, Stevenson continues to argue, or extends this argument, that we are intending, when we say something is evil or bad, and let's follow the example here, being gay is immoral. What her utterance means is that I disapprove of being gay, and I would extend that to say, you should not be gay, right? So Bachman is trying to persuade you not to do this. So when we say genocide is bad, we're saying you shouldn't kill an entire race of people. You should not do it. So this is a difference between descriptive statements, where we are describing the world we are in, and the facts can be measured and observed, versus prescriptive statements, which are, you should not do it. So most, let me restate that, all, I don't get to say all often, but this is one of the times, all ethical claims are prescriptive, not descriptive. And that might be my opinion. It might not be our author's opinion or position or philosophy, but I am comfortable with that. So what I am saying is, ethical statements are always shoulds. You should not. You shouldn't do that. So it's an easy way to make a distinction in arguments between what is a factual claim and what I would call a value claim. Now our text here calls it something other than a value claim. Our text calls it, what's the verbiage? A difference in attitude. Okay. Or do they call it they call it a, where is it? They call it a persuasive claim, or a performative statement. It's all means roughly the same thing. So that when you make a statement like, you should not be gay, or you should not commit genocide, the speaker is saying that I don't agree with it, and neither should you. They are voicing their desire. Now this is the part where I part company with emotivism or subjectivism. The emotivist or subjectivist believes that when you make that prescriptive statement, you should not be gay, what they are saying is that I desire you to not be gay. And it's nothing more. There's no fact of the matter. It's not that being gay is right or wrong, evil or benevolent. There is still no such thing as an objective moral standard. Okay? So in that way, it's still like subjectivism, in that there is no objective moral standard. It's still what you prefer. It's still based on your feelings, but now you're taking your feelings and you are prescribing your desire to other people. Okay, you're not making a claim of why anybody should be gay or not gay. You're just saying, look, you shouldn't do that because I desire you not to. Okay, so, and I'm going to try to persuade you. So our author here separates this into factual claims like these are differences in belief. So we might disagree. Let's go to global warming. Is the Earth's atmosphere warming in general, or is it not? This is a factual claim. It can be, in theory at least, proven true or false. Therefore, if we disagree about the facts of global warming, we are having a difference in belief. Our author refers to that as a difference in belief. What you believe about the facts are in disagreement, but one of us is right, one is true, and one of us is wrong, one is false. So we have a belief. versus what we want to happen. We can, the facts are the facts all day long. We have our differing beliefs about what the facts on global warming are, but in terms of what we desire, let's see, for the global warming example, I desire that we stop creating pollution that I believe, factual claim, is raising the temperature of the earth. So what I desire is for our economy and business to change to reflect my belief. Now, somebody else, we always have to separate whether we're having a disagreement in facts, a disagreement in our beliefs about what is true about the world, or if we're having a disagreement in desires, that we want something different to happen, and that's a difference in attitude. I will frequently call that a difference in values. I desire that genocide not happen anymore. That is my desire. That is my value. I desire that all human life have sanctity and value. That's something I value. There's not a factual situation. It's a value that I have chosen. Okay, so those are differences in attitude. All right, so, but the underlying idea with these in terms of the emotivist is that there are beliefs about facts and there are desires for what you want to happen or not happen. There is no objective case that anything is good or bad, evil or benevolent. So Hitler still is neither evil nor good. He is simply something that people desire or don't desire. And that is all, according to the emotivist. Right, that's where I'm not going to agree with them. Okay, so that said, we have covered the emotivists and the subjectivists' positions. We now need to start to criticize their positions. Okay, for our critique of subjectivism and emotivism, our author goes straight for the crux of the matter, which is the subjectivists and the emotivists' claim that there is no objective moral truth. So here in this section on ethics and science, he begins by talking about, let's see if I can find the highlighted plan. Yeah, okay. A belief in objective values, right? So that genocide is evil, or homosexuality is immoral, any kind of claim like this. A belief in objective values in the 21st century is like a belief in ghosts or witches or mystics. If there are such things, why hasn't science discovered them? Right? We can't go out and find something like wickedness. Right? We can't go out and find the fact of that. We can't measure it like we can the green of a tree or the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. So the discussion goes that the universe contains no such thing as wickedness. Our belief in it comes merely from our subjective responses, our feelings about it. So subjectivism is actually making a bit of a comeback, as it's seen as ethics are are presented to us as something that is not scientific. And our author here is going to make an argument against it. So, what do we make of this? Admittedly, ethics, value claims, are not things in the world like planets or spoons. Planets or spoons. You can't go out and find the planet morality. You can't pull an ethical position out of the drawer. So we don't really discover wickedness. However, this does not mean that ethics has no objective basis. A common mistake is to assume that there are just two possibilities. There are moral values in the same way that there are planets and spoons. They are objective things that you can go out and measure with science. Or our values have nothing more than the expression of our subjective feelings, which is the position of the subjectivists and the emotivists. This overlooks a third possibility, and this is a big point. People have not only feelings, but reason. Bing, 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 bing. Reason. And that makes a big difference. We're not just animals, right? We aren't functioning just on instinct and programming. It may be that moral truths are matters of reason. A moral judgment is true if it is backed by better reasons than the alternatives. I cannot stress what a brilliant statement this is. I do agree with the author here, and this is our author Rachel's arguing against the emotivists and the subjectivists by saying, no, wait a minute. When we say that genocide is evil, what we mean is it is objectively true that it is evil, and the way that I will support that claim and demonstrate that it is true is I will construct an argument, a rational argument, yes, taking into account the facts that support my position, and taking into consideration the facts that may counter-indicate my position. But the crux of it is that I'm going to give you reasons why my moral judgment is true, why genocide is immoral, and homosexuality is immoral. Right? Now, I'm intentionally picking different positions from different so-called political arenas, because you can argue for whatever you believe is the truth of the moral atmosphere or the moral landscape. And there are people who will still make arguments that homosexuality is factually, objectively immoral. Just like I am making the argument that genocide is factually, objectively immoral. So we, in this class, always look at a variety of stances to consider whether they are sound or not. And how we are going to do that is by looking at their reasoning. Okay, so moral truths are objective in the sense that they are true independently of what we might want or believe. So moral truths are true independent of what we might desire. All right, you might desire homosexuality to be moral, or you might desire homosexuality to be immoral. What you want doesn't matter. There is an objective morality to the case, and we need to figure out what that is. So it is not merely opinion. Okay, so I'll get off my soapbox there. Okay, so finally, our last topic for this video.
So how do we decide
is to address the issue of of
can
proof.
there be proofs?
So
well, there aren't really proofs per se.
There is, as I and our authors argue, an objective
we can't prove
fact
something like
to morality.
We can in science, although actually in science you
even
prove,
though we can't go out and measure it like spoons
you
and
can't
planets,
prove anything is true. You can only demonstrate that things are not true.
How
but
then
that's
do we
for another day? That's a philosophy of science class.
I'm hesitant to use the word proof. That's
so
why there's
how do we
scare
prove
quotes on it
moral
in our text.
reasoning? Well,
how then
what
do we
constitutes
support
a good argument
or claims that say genocide is
rational
immoral,
or
for that
a
matter,
moral stance
that homosexuality is immoral?
We get a list from our author here.
If we can support our judgments with good reasons, and we can explain why those reasons
I'm not going to find them,
matter.
but I'm going to
If we can do that,
simply list them.
and for an encore, show that no comparable case can be made on the opposing side or sides.
Yes, constructing sound
more in
proofs
the way
is part
of
of philosophy.
proof could anyone want?
And that is quite
Perhaps
true. So,
people want ethical
if you're
theories
gonna
to
give
be
us an
proved
example,
experimentally, the way
same-sex
science
marriage.
does. However,
I think yes.
that's inappropriate. Ethical reasoning differs from scientific reasoning. It's a different kind of animal. And it doesn't mean that ethics is deficient, it just means it isn't a material, scientific thing. It's difficult to prove one's opinion, which is true in many cases in science as well. That doesn't mean that it isn't true. And our text gives us this warning, which is very important. Proving an opinion to be correct is not the same as persuading someone to accept your proof. It works in two directions. Just because someone believes you, just because the whole world believes you, doesn't mean your ethical stance is true. The whole world can think that genocide is wrong and homosexuality is right, and that doesn't make it necessarily true. So popularity is not how we will be deciding our ethics. Conversely, if no one's persuaded, that doesn't mean our proof isn't good. Sometimes you can have a very solid, sound, valid argument for a position that should be accepted as true by any rational person, and it will not be persuasive because people don't want to believe it. Well, I'm sure we've all had that experience. Global warming's a great example. No one wants to believe it, therefore people say, oh, well, that's not true. So they're not necessarily connected. Persuasiveness is not a sign of a good argument. What's a sign of a good argument, we're going to spend the rest of the semester breaking down and writing our position papers. A good argument is one that is rational. I have a little list in my notes. A good argument is one in which factual claims are true and verifiable and verified, not merely persuasive. A good argument in ethics has reasons that are relevant to the judgment at hand. Saying, well, he's going to get an A in this class because he baked me cookies is not a relevant reason. It's not a good reason for giving someone an A. Okay, so it has to be relevant, a relevant reason or reasons. It has to have true factual support, and let's see, what else? And I should have addressed any counterclaims, counter arguments, and effectively demonstrated that no one else has a better argument at this time. Now, might at some point in the future someone come up with a better argument? Yeah, they might. And then I would have to reconsider my claim. If someone can come up with a good argument for genocide and why it's moral, then I need to listen to that if it's better than my argument. So we need to stay open-minded. All right? So constructing sound proofs is philosophy. Being persuasive is psychology and sales. All right. This is where I'm going to actually end this particular lecture. At the end of this chapter, our author brings up homosexuality and same-sex relationships and arguments for whether or not same-sex relationships are moral or not. I'm going to table that part of this chapter for when we have our discussion on Monday, at which time we will be reading the sections on homosexuality. So we'll talk about the end of this chapter in our discussion on Monday. A few words about gay marriage by Andrew Sullivan, and same-sex marriage and the argument from public disagreement by David Boonin. So we will talk about those on Monday, and then the paper on them will be due the subsequent Monday. All right, thank you, everyone. Hope that was very Facebook. I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you soon.